Well, welcome to this lesson. Today we will talk about the fundamental concepts of organizational behavior. So what we need to understand is that it's okay, you can go off now. What we need to understand is that organizations have a certain type of behavior that shapes what they do within their offices. And organizations are normally made of people who are working in a coordinated way for purposes of ensuring that they achieve their objective. So for us to understand what organization behavior is, first and foremost, we need to understand what is an organization. And we are saying an organization is a group of people who are collected to work for a common goal with a collective effort. So, for example, you are working for a certain company, let's say Safaricom. So that is a group of people who have been organized in a way that they are supposed to achieve a certain goal collectively. And that is why we have divisions within the organization that shape our big picture, what we want to achieve as organizations. So organizations work through two concepts. The first one is coordination, and the second one is delegation. So coordination is trying your level best to put things together in a seamless way so that you achieve your organizational goals. And delegation in the other sense is that you are allocating your group members some responsibilities or some equal tasks where they are supposed to do and come up with solutions. So what is behavior? Behavior is a verbal or physical response shown by a person as a consequence of the impact of his surrounding. So remember, behaviors are normally shaped by the surrounding or by the people who you interact with on a day-to-day basis. And this basically shapes what you do in organizations. So individual behavior varies in accordance with their mental reactivity to a particular circumstance. For example, if you are faced with some circumstance that you really need to answer, then we are saying this circumstance will shape your behavior, and this will make you either to react in a positive way or in a negative way. So according to Prasad, organization behavior is the study of the application of knowledge about human related to other elements of the organizational structure, technology, and social system. So we are saying it is the application of knowledge, the knowledge that you've gathered over the years, and this knowledge is what will shape your behavior. And this knowledge is also influenced by various factors like the structure. For example, if you go into an organization today that has a certain pattern of behavior, this pattern of behavior will shape how you interact or how you behave. Look at an example where you go to an organization that is well structured, where we have the CEO, we have the directors, we have the managers, and the other staffs. So there's a way the manager of procurement will behave, and there's a different way the manager of marketing will behave. And this is normally shaped by the organization structure. Then you're also looking at technology as another factor that will shape human behavior. Remember, we are currently in the era of information. And by so doing, we are saying that technology plays a very critical role in shaping your behavior. Look at a time when we did not have a technology in place. What used to happen is that people used to interact more physically. But nowadays, because of technology, we can interact using computers or using our phones. So you don't need to be physically present so that you can communicate or interact. Then we are saying the social system, and social system is all about building relationships among different partners or among different stakeholders within the organization. Remember, the organization can be treated as a system. And in a system, we have different subsystems which are put together to work for a common good and to achieve various issues within the organization. So when you look at organization behavior, we have various fundamental concepts that will shape the behavior of individuals or the behavior of people who are working in a certain organization. So what are some of those fundamental concepts? The first one is individual differences. Different people have different DNAs, or they have different ways of interaction. So for example, if you are a lawyer, there's a different way lawyers behave. If you are a man, there's a different way men behave. If you are a woman, there's a way you behave. So this will shape many things about your behavior and about your interaction. Then the other thing is about perception. And perception here, we are talking about how you perceive things within the interaction within your surrounding. It will basically shape your behavior. Employees view work differently because of their different personalities, needs, and demographic factors. So different people have different personalities. We have those individuals who are introverts, and we have others who are extroverts. So depending on your personality or character, it will always shape what you are going to do, or how you are going to behave, or what you need as an individual also will shape your behavior at the end of the day. Then we're also looking at demographic factors like age, gender, income, marital status will also shape your behavior. For example, if you are a young person, there are some things you can buy. Maybe you can decide to buy a good phone or thing. And as much as you continue growing, your priorities also change. So you become more sensitive in what you are supposed to buy, unlike when you are still young. Then as a woman, also we have some things that you can buy, and you are very careful. And also men, there are things that they can also buy. So it also depends with what you do. Just a minute. Then we are also saying a whole person. An employee personal life is not detached from his work life. Remember, we spend a lot of time at work, and most of the behaviors are normally shaped when we are working, because most of the time we spend a lot of time. For example, from 8 in the morning up to 5 in the evening, you are working. And you're working from Monday to Friday. So your personal life, sometimes you cannot detach it from your working life, because it affects your character as a person. Similarly, we are saying emotional conditions are not separate from physical conditions. So what you feel physically sometimes might affect your emotions. Therefore, they go hand in hand. Then we're also talking about motivated behavior. Motivation is very essential to operations of the organization. Look at an individual that is motivated. This individual will always work harmoniously to ensure that they achieve a certain level of satisfaction because of the motivation. Therefore, motivation behavior is very critical in organizations. And that is why when you go to most organizations, you find that we have a whole department for human resource. And one of the reasons we have those departments is to be able to listen what the employees are saying and trying your level best to motivate them so that they can work towards achieving the goal of the organization. Then the desire for involvement. Human beings always want to be involved in various activities. And if you involve somebody, then it means that person will be able to execute a certain responsibility with his or her whole heart in that activity. And at the end of the day, they will be able to get some talents out of it. They will be able to share ideas out of it, and this will develop their behavior in the short run and in the long run. Then we're also talking about value of the person. If somebody feels that they are valued within the organization, there's a way they behave, and they will always try their level best to ensure that they work towards achieving the organization goals. But the moment you realize that you are not valued in organizations, then people become so reluctant, and at the end of the day, they do not work towards achieving their set goals and objectives. So others end up even resigning and looking for other opportunities in other organizations. Then we're also talking about human dignity. And human dignity is, it recognizes human dignity because people are of a higher order and they must be treated with a lot of respect. So always ensure when you're working in organization, don't lower yourself so that you lower your dignity. And once you lower your dignity, it means people will start not respecting you, and that might even change how you behave in organization. Then organizations are social systems, and we are saying it involves various interactions by people from different walks of life, from different departments, coming together to achieve a common goal. Mutuality of interest. Mutuality of interest is demonstrated by the fact that organizations need people and people also need organizations. So those things are related in one way or another, because as much as you are benefiting as an individual from the organization is also benefiting from you because you are giving a service to that organization, and that is a great deal to the organization. Then we also talk about holistic concept, and we are saying this is a concept interprets people, organization, relationship in regards to the whole person, the whole group, the whole organization, and the whole system. So we are saying we are looking at organization as a holistic concept where we have various coordinated activities within the organization by people in the organization, and which leads to the growth of the whole social system within the organization. Then issues of ethics also is very, very important. And when we're talking about ethics, we are talking about behavior in terms of morals. We need to maintain our morals, and that is why when you look at most organizations, you find that they have ethical code of conduct that shapes their behavior, so that at the end of the day, they are trained, and some of them are even rewarded certificates for purposes of recognition that indeed they know, they understand, and they talk about ethics most of the time. So what is learning? What is learning? It is important to understand human behavior, and that is why we always learn. And remember, learning is a continuous process, and it helps you to get what is called a permanent change in behavior, because the more you learn, the more you become better and better every day. So learning can be defined as a relatively permanent change in behavior that results from experience. So the more you get experienced, the more you learn, and the more you realize that indeed there are some things that you thought you know, yet you do not know. Then we're also saying What is behavior? Behaviorism was the school of thought in psychology that sought to measure only observable behavior. The behaviorist standpoint held that psychology was an experimental and objective science. So we are saying human behavior sometimes is conditioned in a way to start behaving in a certain direction. And we have various studies that were done before, and these studies came up and said that human behavior can be observed. And once you do some experiments about human behavior, you'll be able to understand how people behave or what makes people behave the way they behave. And one of the things, one of the studies was the classical conditioning. And this was a learning process where they did an experiment, and they suggested in that experiment that smell of food was the natural occurring stimulus that was paired with previous neutral ringing of the bell. So they did a study, and every at 12 in the 12 p.m. or 12 noon, they ring a bell, and they give. I think they were doing a study with the dogs, so that ikifika saa sita hivi wana ring bell, alafu wanapatia hizo umbo chakula. So every time they could ring the bell, then there was that classical conditioning of the dogs, and they knew that it is really lunchtime. And they ended up saying, in the event that they ring the bell, then the dogs responded as a way of stimulating their appetite to realize that indeed it was time for lunch. So all these studies are in organization behavior, and I believe you have been taught organization behavior in your, there's a whole unit on organization behavior. Then you also have operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is learning process in which the probability of a response occurring is increased or decreased due to the reinforcement or punishment. So in the event you feel that you are going to be punished because of a certain occurrence, then human beings tend to behave in a certain way. But if you feel that there is nothing that it's going to happen to you, they also tend to behave in a certain way. Skinners describe how reinforcement could lead to increase in behavior, while punishment could result in decrease of behavior. So basically, behavior depends on punishment or reinforcement. So what are some of the basic principles of social learning theory? Those ones you can read, these are my theory. But we have 4 important elements which are essential for effective observational learning. And these factors are attention, we have motor skills, we have motivation, and we have memory. Easy meaning in theory, easy. Some of these things are just for learning purposes, but you might not get them in exams. Then we have actions and behavior. An action denotes everything that can be observed, either with bare eyes or measured by physical sensors. Behavioral action can take place on various timescales, ranging from muscular activation, sweat glands activities, food consumption, or sleep. So these are actions that might lead you to behave in a certain way. For example, if you consume food, a lot of food, you might end up sleeping. So that is an action that will inform your behavior. For example, if you are running or you are doing some exercise, then it means that action of doing exercise will lead you to behave in a certain way. Maybe you will start sweating. based on the activity or the action that you are doing. Then we have cognitive or behavior, cognitive and behavior. Cognitive describes thoughts and mental image you carry with you, which could either be verbal or non-verbal. For example, they are saying, I have to remember to buy grocery, or I'd be curious to know what she thinks of me. So cognitive behavior is based on maybe what you think you can remember or what you feel that people think about you that will inform your decision. So cognitive comprises of skills and knowledge, knowing how to use tools in meaningful manner without hurting yourself. So it gives you the reason or the memory of understanding what you need to do without necessarily harming yourself. And this is basically what you think as a person that will shape your behavior. Then we're also talking about emotions and behavior. And emotions, commonly, an emotion is any relative brief conscious experience characterized by intense mental activity and feelings. So your feelings might lead you to behave in a certain way. For example, if you feel you are not satisfied, then you might react in a negative way. But if you feel maybe you are loved, there's a way you also behave. Then the other thing is that everything is connected. Action, cognitive, and emotions do not run independently of each other. So those ones you can just read and understand. Cognitive are specific to time and situations, and imagination and abstract cognitive are body-based. Those are things you can just read and understand, but not necessarily that these are going to be examined. So it's just for learning purposes. Decision making and emotions, then the other those ones will just read irrational behavior and rational behavior, voluntary and involuntary behavior. So we have some behaviors that are voluntary, where you do them because you feel like doing them or you desire to do them. Then you have involuntary behavior that sometimes you might be forced to do them, even if you do not want or you cannot avoid to do them. So how then do we measure human behavior? How do we measure human behavior? We can measure human behavior by way of observing their behavior. And that is called behavioral observation, where you look at people and how they behave, and then you can come up with a conclusion based on the experiment that you've done. Or sometimes you can visit people in their natural surrounding, maybe in field study, or invite individuals or groups to the laboratory where you start by testing them and coming up with conclusions on their behavior. Then the other thing is observation in the laboratory. We are saying you are going to do some experimental controls where you give people some activities and you try your level best to control them, and you see how they react in that conditioning. And that will form the basis of your decision in terms of behavior. Then you also can give questionnaires to people where they answer. And once they answer, you can decide to do a survey and questionnaire. And survey here is when you're dealing with a smaller group of people where you want to capture what they do. And the questionnaires are structured in a way that they are supposed to answer some questions that will make your basis on their behavior. And the answers they give will make you come up with a decision on the behavior of the people or the respondents. You can also organize focus groups where you have individuals of 4 to 15 members, and where you give them some tasks and they do those tasks. And once they finish them, you can also analyze what they did based on their beliefs and attitudes towards maybe what they were supposed to do, maybe organizing on products or services and other issues that will form the basis of your conclusion on their behavior. Then we have beyond survey and focus groups. Here we are saying you can decide to go beyond the surveys or the focus groups by using some traditional methodologies that will help you to ascertain the behavior. So how then do you manage human resource? How then do you manage human resource? And this takes us to what we call human resource planning. Human resource planning. Remember, human resource is very critical in every organization. And the work of human resource is to recruit employees, is to hire those employees, deploy them to various divisions, manage them, and also motivate those individuals to become better versions of themselves. So what is human resource planning? Human resource planning is the continuous process of systematic planning ahead to achieve optimum use of organization most valued assets. And we are saying organization's most valued assets are the employee. So the essence of human resource planning is to ensure that you are ahead of your game in advance, and you are looking for human capital that will help you to achieve or realize your goal as an organization. So human resource planning ensures the best fit between employees and the job while avoiding manpower shortage or surplus. So we are saying we are planning our human resource and ensuring that we place the human resource in their respective departments so that at the end of the day, you are able to maximize on their productivity. And at the end of the day also, you are able to maintain an optimum number of employees so that you do not have shortages or you do not have surplus. Then there are 4 key steps that involve in human resource planning. And we are saying they include analysis of the present labor supply. So you are looking at what you have in terms of the labor. And once you have the number that is required, then you are good to go. Then the other thing is forecasting on demand, forecasting on labor demand. So you need to look at the current manpower vis-a-vis what you expect in the future. And you have to create a balance of the demand and the supply of labor so that you do not have a lot of people working in a particular department where the demand is very low and other departments have some challenge when it comes to employees. Then the other thing we are saying is that supporting organizational goals. So you need to support organizational goals. What we want to achieve as an organization is very, very important. So human resource planning allows companies to plan ahead so that they can maintain steady supply of skilled employees. So you need to look at the current requirements in terms of labor or in terms of human capital and try your level best as the human resource to recruit skilled employees who are going to transform your organization into something better. This is why it is also referred to as workforce planning. So human resource planning can also be referred to as workforce planning. You are planning for your employees and what they're supposed to do, and also creating a very enabling environment where your employees can grow and become better and better. So the process is used to help companies evaluate their needs and to plan ahead to meet their needs. So it is very, very important. Remember, we are in an environment where it is very competitive and employees are trying their level best to grow or to outgrow their current roles. And that is why every time you walk into organizations, you find that every employee is applying for jobs. They want better opportunities. And for human resource to ensure that we do not have a lot of turnover of employees, they always empower the employee that they have by creating an environment that is very conducive for work. Human resource planning needs to be flexible enough to meet short-term staff challenges while adapting changing conditions in the business environment in the long term. So sometimes you might find some disruptions when it comes to human capital. And that is why in 2020, we had some disruptions where most employees were sacked because of the change or the paradigm shift of the business organization that affected the whole operations. And most companies did not survive. So human resource planning starts by assessing and auditing the current capacity of human resource. So you're looking at what you have in terms of human capital and trying to get the gaps in terms of the human resource so that at the end of the day, you'll be able to meet the demand and supply of work. So what are the steps of the human resource planning? The first step, we are saying we are analyzing the labor supply. What is there in the market? Do we have the relevant qualifications that are needed so that as the human resource, we are going to look at the number of employees that we want. Are those employees having the skills that is required? Are those employees qualified in those positions? What are some of the benefits that they are going to add? And issues of performance level also is very, very important. Then the second one is forecasting labor demand. So you're looking at the future. What does the future hold in terms of the human resource? You also need to look at how many promotions have been there so that you can forecast in the future. Or are you anticipating that some employees are going to be promoted at the end of the day? Or some employees are going to retire? Or some employees are going to be laid off or transferred to other location. So those are some of the things that you need to do or you need to understand when you are forecasting for demand in the marketplace or the human capital. So the human resource department can also look at the external condition that is impacting demand. And here we are also looking at issues like technology. How will technology affect the human capital? Look at a case like last month or early this month, the people of Kericho were going on their, they are going to advocate for their rights because they are saying we have a machine that is coming here and this machine is going to affect the labor. It is going to affect the employees there. So some of them decided to go and strike because they are feeling that the machines will take their jobs. So sometimes change is as good as best, but before change comes, we'll always have people who are going to oppose the change. Then we also need to balance labor demand with supply. So we are saying you need to create a balance between what we have in terms of the work and the supply of labor. How many employees do we need? And that will take us to what is called the gap analysis. So you're anticipating the gap that is there in the organization. And as human resource, you are trying your level best to fill that gap by hiring the right people, hiring the right managers who are going to do the job. Develop and implementing a plan. So you need to have a plan on how you are going to implement your strategy as the human resource. How are you going to implement what you want to implement in terms of human capital? And that also will take us to what we call a budget. You need to have a budget for the employees that you are going to bring on board. Therefore, you need to liaise with the finance department so that at least you know how much you expected to spend for a particular employee, so that you don't hire somebody, then you end up not paying the person the money that is required. And that is why when you look at most jobs, they are asking for you to quote your current salary so that they can weigh whether they can afford it. Then special consideration, the goal of human resource planning is to have the optimum number of staffs to attain the objective of the organization. So you must have optimum number of staff so that you achieve your goal as the human resource. And also, we are talking about globalization increases. Human resource department will face the need to implement new practices to accommodate government regulations from country to country. So different companies, different organizations want to grow, want to spread their wings. Look at a company like Equity, for example. They are growing and they want to be in various parts of Africa. And it is forcing them to even recruit members from across the globe as a way of trying to increase their market share, trying to increase their sales or productivity, and is very, very important. As much as you are planning locally, you also need to look at ways on how to increase your scope in the global arena. The other thing that is very, very important is issues of training. Once you recruit an employee, it is very important that you train that employee so that those employees become better versions of themselves, so that it becomes even easier for them to work and be motivated. And that is why it is always very expensive to train new employees, because by the time they come and understand what they're supposed to do, it is very expensive for the organization. That is why organizations try their level best to be able to retain workers who have experience. And remember, when you bring a new employee on board, you are not sure that that employee is going to stay in that organization for that long, compared to the experienced guys who have been there for more than 10 years, because you already know these people and you relate with them. So the other thing we also need to understand is the issue of training and development. Training is very critical in many organizations because it gives what is called continuous improvement. The moment you start training your employees, then it means you are creating another avenue for them to learn new things, learn new activities, and to ensure that they become better and better every day. Then some organizations also go ahead to develop some of these employees by even taking them to school, where you go and learn, and later, once you finish, then you come back and you improve the internal processes. However, when some employees are developed, they end up disappointing the organization by wanting to quit. But organizations have also come up with policies where they are saying, once we take you to school, you must work for a certain number of years before you can decide to look for other opportunities. And this is very common in these blue chip companies where they invest in you. Then once they invest in you, they ensure at the end of the day, you have to work for them for a certain number of time. As rapid change in technology and skilling the employee very quickly, many organizations have fixed certain amount of training hours per year for their employee. So what are some of the needs and importance of employee training and development? When you train employees or when you develop those employees, then employees are able to learn new skills, they're able to improve their skills, and it will lead to better productivity. And the other thing is that you are going to be competitive in the industry because of the continuous improvement as you go along. Then we are saying the training and development activities is required when company revise its objective and goals to adjust to the changing market condition. So remember, things are changing. And because of that, you also need to change. With the change in technology, you need to become better and better every day. Companies often endorse training and development programs to improve their performance of their employees. So employees need to continuously improve through learning so that they find better ways of doing things. Therefore, training and development will increase their performance. The human resource training and development is needed to set up a benchmark of performance with employees and expected to achieve in a certain financial year. So we are saying it is important because training and development also will make you to benchmark. And once you benchmark, you are able to understand the various processes and how various departments do their thing or various organizations do their thing so that you come back to your department and improve. There is always a need of training and development efforts to teach the employee new skills. So the essence of training is to get new skills that will empower you to become better and better in terms of team management, in terms of communication and leadership style. Then training and development also used to test new methods to enhance productivity. So you are going to train yourself, come up with new innovations, come up with new ideas, and these ideas are going to ensure that you become productive in the organization. So what are the purpose of training and development? Purpose of training and development. It demonstrates that you care so much about their well-being and development as the company. So one of the most effective method of demonstrating to employees that you value them. So by training and development, it means that the organization values you and wants you to be better and better every day. Then we're also saying training can be used as a preventive measure to prepare people for expected and foreseen changes or challenges in the workplace. So the training is preparing you in the event you have some issues that you cannot control. Just a minute. We are saying training is very critical and very important because it helps you to produce future leaders. Remember, it is everybody's wish that one day, one time in life, you become a leader. So through training, you will be able to be given some new skills, or you will be able to have a clear career path that will help you to realize your dream as a person, or even to become a future leader in that organization. So employees are a significant and most important component of a company's asset. Therefore, through training, then it means employees feel that indeed the organization is taking care of them and that the business is also investing on them and making them to become better and better. So the other thing we are talking about is the types of training and development, types of training and development. We have technical training. We have technical training. This is a form of instruction that teaches new employees about technology and components of their job. So you are trying your level best to teach your employees new technology and various components of their job and how they can maneuver when they are working in their various departments. Then we're also talking about quality training. This is the process of familiarizing personnel with the method of preventing, identifying, and removing non-quality goods in the manufacturing environment. So we are trying our level best as organizations so that we train you and you understand what happens in the manufacturing process, so that what you produce is a product that is going to be of quality to the customer, so that you do not waste or have defects that will affect even your reputation as an organization. Then the other type of training is skills training. This involves developing the ability of employees to enable them execute their jobs. So you are improving the skills of your employees so that they are able to improve in terms of how they work in their various departments. Then you have soft skill training is another form of training which aims at improving employees' soft skills. And here we are talking about training on personality, training on communication, and training on other issues, maybe interaction or interpersonal interactions, so that you become better in how you perform some duties. Then we are talking about professional training. And professional training here, we are talking about professional education, where, for example, you are a marketer, you need to do some professional courses for you to become a good marketer. If you are in supply chain management, you are doing a professional course for you to become a better supply chain manager or procurement officer or warehouse supervisor or other activities. Then the other thing we need to understand is the issue of recruitment and selection. Recruitment is very important because recruitment is the process of attracting qualified candidates for a job or a role, while selecting is the process of identifying and selecting the right candidate for the job. So recruitment is very common. When you go to magazines or when you go to local dailies or even in the internet, they normally advertise for jobs for purposes of recruiting employees who then go to a selection process to be selected for that particular job. So who are some of the enablers of a good recruitment process? Number one is integration of job posting with job description. So you need to create a balance between the job posting and the job description. So you need to create a database of job posting and link vacancy to well-defined job description and skills. Then simplify the application. So you need to simplify the application as much as possible. Don't use jargons where people are trying to understand what you're saying. Make it as simple as possible so that those who wish to be selected to that organization, they're able to do it in a more simplified way. Then you can also decide to include maybe devices, maybe mobile phones, where they can access the job through their mobile phones or through the internet and things like that. Displaying job posting on your website also is very important, because remember, nowadays we are in the era of technology, and you just need your laptop or your computer or even your phone to access a certain job from a certain website. Manage previous submitted resume. Remember, organizations normally have a database for their recruitment where every application counts. In the event you're not selected in this application, they'll always go back and review other employees or other potential employees who have applied for that job. Manage your candidate effectively also is very important. Assign interviewers to shortlisted candidates and automate reminder to candidates and interviews. So before you are selected or before you are shortlisted, they also communicate. Maybe they can share an SMS and at the same time share an email so that you have an idea, so that at least you are reminded every time. Streamline the applicant's tracking process so it's easy for tracking, where once we have those jobs that have different stages. For example, first interview, second interview, and things like that. So make sure that you are able to keep track of those steps as you go along. Maintain touch points with candidates. So it is very important to still remain in touch with candidates, even if they do not pass the interview. You can always keep in touch and build a relationship for the future. Have a robust onboarding process. Improve day one readiness of new recruitments or recruits by seeing on board new employees. So make sure that their new employees are introduced to the organization system, the organization process in a very simplified way so that they don't get or they don't fear the first time they enter your organization. Maintain data on the recruitment process. Ensure that every time you have the process filed for future audits so that you are not ambushed. So, any question?